Hello and welcome to Diniz Farms. We're here with an episode of Autumn Oaks. This is an edit to the map by Diniz Farms with his patented Diniz Farms map enhancement project improvements. And so that is adding all kinds of awesome animal mechanics here to the map. This is our first official video episode. I've done a map tour on this map, and we kicked off the series with a 2.5-hour live stream just before this episode. So if you haven't watched that, I will link that here up above, and all of the videos, as always, are going to be in a playlist for this series. This is likely going to be a series with quite a few episodes in it, as there is a lot of things that we want to try out on this map. There's a lot of cool custom mechanics that we're going to be getting into with the animals, and as always with animals, we have to spend some time to get there. We're going to have to spend at least 2 years on this map, I think, to see most of the cool feature and functionality. Now, one of the cool things that Diniz Farms has done is he set it up so that the animals are going to start breeding right away. We're not going to have to wait to year 2 with our cows. They do start breeding at year 1, so we've already got a number of animals here. We started out with 20 animals that we've just purchased during the live stream, so still in the same day, that aren't fertile yet. But you can see here we've got a couple of cows that I purchased in the previous day, and we've already got one of those 2 cows pregnant here, artificial insemination. So we've got cows coming on the way here soon, and so we're going to be able to get into the whole dairy farming aspect of this map yet before the end of this first year with seasons, which is really exciting. And so right now we are in spring, and as always with the start of a new map, there's a lot of miscellaneous field work to do. I don't expect that we're going to have to do a lot of tillage in this series, since we'll be doing a lot of grass type work between our hay and our alfalfa for haylage, and we've got triticale and rye and oats and different things like that, so we won't need to do a lot of tillage. But there were a number of fields that needed a bit of tillage here to get started, and we did a lot of that on the live stream here. We started out and did tillage on this big field over there with a worker, and now we're kind of cleaning up what's left of our tillage here manually. We've got this one contour here that needs to be finished up, which we're on our last round. And then I believe we've got one other field here. If we take a quick look at the map here, you can see the fields that we own here in this big section. And we've still got to plow field 21. We've already got oats over here in field 26. So we'll have to do the tillage on that field at a later point in time after we harvest those oats. But that'll be good. It'll give us a chance to kind of break up some of this work. We decided during the live stream that we would rather get the crops in on the appropriate day, because there was just so much tillage to get done that we didn't want to risk missing out on the appropriate planting days. One of the cool things with this map is it does come with a custom geo, and so our planting times for various crops, we really have to get them done here in the mid-spring. And we got all of these different crops in, and so now we're trying to get everything set up so that we can also get our corn, our silage corn, and our soybeans planted here as we get into late spring. And so the goal for today is to wrap up these 2 fields of tillage, this one and was it 21? And then we're gonna switch over and do a little bit of animal work here. We've got to double check on all of our animals, make sure that everything's set up well for those, and then we'll get set up for the planting season here. We've got to get everything switched over and get our planter out. For those that missed the live stream, we are running on 9-day seasons on this playthrough. Usually I run on 6-day seasons, but I thought that 9 would be a little bit more appropriate with all of the miscellaneous work that we have to do, as well as all of the animal work. That will allow us to spend a little bit more time working on different jobs, plus doing all of our chores with the animals, and kind of give a little bit of progression day to day. on the farm rather than having to try and get everything done on individual days. It'll also reduce some of our risk with trying to work with grass and hay because we're going to be doing a lot of grass work, and whenever we're needing to make hay for our animals, we're going to want that grass to dry out. And on 6-day seasons, if you get a day of rain, that could definitely set you back. And so 9-day seasons is going to give us just a bit more flexibility with that whole situation. So it looks like we've got all of the tillage done here in this field. We're going to just spin around over here and head on down our little road here that's going to take us back to these other fields. Now, unfortunately, I don't know that there's a specific road to get to the small field that we want, but I don't think it's going to hurt too much to drive across this grass. In fact, we're already heading the wrong way. We're still learning the layout of this farm and some of our fields, and so we want to work our way over here. It's this a little field over here in the trees that we need to get plowed up here. It looks like this was likely a cornfield last time around, so it makes sense we need to do just a little bit of tillage, get some of these corn stalks worked up. We'll use our handy GPS function on this tractor to help us keep going straight. And you'll likely have noticed at this point that we've got rocks popping up occasionally when we're doing tillage here. I did a video on this mod a couple weeks back. This is the Rocky Fields mod by Thundar Modding, and it causes rocks to pop up during tillage. So we will need to come back out here and pick those rocks up, because if we hit them with our planter or a combine later on, we're going to cause some damage to that implement potentially, which is honestly a really cool feature. And so I'm looking forward to playing with that a little bit more here as time goes on and seeing how that works out. I like the realism factor, but at the same time, without appropriate equipment to deal with said rocks, it could get a little bit annoying. But luckily, Thundar's added quite a bit of functionality to various implements so that we're going to be able to pick those rocks up without too much difficulty. To start with, we'll probably come out here with a front loader and pick them up. I don't expect to get more than a couple of rocks in a small field this size, so it tends not to be that big of an issue. This ripper is a little bit on the small side, which is fine. We've got a small farm, and so I made an attempt not to oversize too much of my equipment in this playthrough. We did do an equipment tour at the beginning of the live stream as well that I've mentioned, and so if you're looking for a full farm and equipment tour, I definitely recommend checking out the start of that live stream as we go through everything that's on the farm in that video. There's a lot of trees back here in this small nook, so it's always interesting trying to navigate with both the camera and our implement here, but we seem to have a pretty good rhythm going here. Honestly, I don't mind the trees backing around here. I think the only tree that I'm going to find a little bit annoying is going to be this one right up here in between the two fields. I feel like this is one that I'm going to at some point smack something into. But I guess that's just the way it goes sometimes. I'm not sure what the total acreage of our farm is at this point because we have a lot of smaller fields and I haven't had a chance to really add that up yet. If you look down in the lower right hand corner of the screen here, it's a little bit hard to see. Maybe if I put it over the grass. This implement has worked 17.84 acres already, and that's just been plowing up 3 of our fields. This field, the contour strip here for field 28, and this big field 31, which only comes right down along the edge of the farm here. And so that's a good amount of our farm here. Let me get turned around. We'll pull that map back open for just a second. And so our farm is actually quite large. We've got huge grass fields up in these different areas here that you can see. But if we look at an actual growth map here, you can see that we've got these different things. I don't know what happened down here. We're really hoping that our crops actually grow in this area, but we'll see. Field 31 is probably going to end up being a cornfield for us because we do need a fair amount of corn for feeding our animals. 29 is likely going to be our silage corn. And then over here in 21, we'll probably put some soybeans in here as we do need some soybeans. And since this field was already corn, the way with the crop rotations with seasons, putting soybeans over here will give us a more optimal yield. The fun thing with the enhancements that Diniz Farms has made to the feed mechanics is that we're going to need both normal corn to grind up into some form of feed. In this case, we'll be putting it into one of these harvestor silos, I believe, and turning that into cracked corn. And then we'll also need the soybean so that we can grind that up into soybean meal for the feed. And then obviously the silage corn is going to get turned into corn silage that we'll use as part of the feed. In addition to those three elements of food, we'll also need some haylage to balance out our feed mix. And that's going to come from our alfalfa and triticale mostly. We do have the green mowing mod installed, so we should see a yield increase for those crops if we mow them while they're in the final growth stage, which will allow us to get a fairly high yield and turn all of that material into haylage. And with that haylage, we'll have all of the components that we need to make the equivalent of the total mixed ration on this map. We could feed those elements to the cows individually, which in my understanding is that in real dairy farming, you might actually do that and feed different elements to them at different points in time. I'm still learning a lot about dairy farming. However, for us, for simplicity's sake, we'll likely mix that all up in our feed mixer and feed our cows all at once. And then the other two elements that we'll need a little bit of is the straw. So we're going to get straw for feed, and then we're also going to be getting some corn stalk bales off of our cornfield. And with those, we're going to be able to provide bedding for some of our cows. Depending on which pens they're in, we'll give them some corn stalk bales. And then we'll also have some regular straw to augment our TMR mix a little bit. And I suspect that that's going to come from some of our rye or maybe our oat field. So we've got just a little bit of area here left to clean up in this field. I think what I'm going to do is take this pass all the way down around the edge of the field and clean up the headlands on the far end down here. And then we'll come back up here and clean up this little bit in the corner that we've missed. It looks like we've got about 5 rocks in this little field, which maybe is a little high. I might go into the settings and dial down the spawn rate on rocks just a smidge so that we're not having to spend quite so much time cleaning up rocks on each field. But like I said, we're not going to be doing tillage that often. And to be honest, we, well, at least when I was farming in the Midwest in southern Minnesota, we had a ton of rocks in our field. And every year it felt like we had just as many as the year before. There was always a lot of rocks getting worked up. And so this is going to be a fun new mechanic to play with. And I'm sure at some point I'm going to miss a rock. And then we're going to be back out here later and ding an implement with a rock and take some additional maintenance damage here. So that'll also be something fun to run into. So with that little bit of tillage done, we're going to go ahead and take this thing back up to the yard here and likely give it a little bit of a wash. We've got quite a bit of dirt and grime here on this tillage equipment, and since we are pretty much going to be done with it for the year at this point, I think it makes sense for us to get this thing cleaned up and parked so that we can get switched over for our planting season. We are going to put this larger tractor on the planter. We could probably run the planter on our smaller 7810. However, I think it's going to just work out better to put it on this larger tractor, and we won't run into nearly as many issues that way, and it'll also free us up to start putting the 7810 on the sprayer. We are going to need to spray a bit of herbicide here on some of our fields. which the 7810 is set up for. So we're going to get all this equipment here in the yard cleaned up and put away and start switching over for what we need to do in the rest of the year. I don't think there's a lot else that we need to do here in mid-spring other than check on our animals. And I'll be honest, that's going to be the hardest thing for me to do. I don't play with animals a lot in my series, and so remembering to check in on them on a daily basis is going to be something that we have to work on. I ran hogs on Flint Hills when we played on that map, and I kept forgetting to feed them and they kept dying, so I had to find a mod that would auto-feed the pigs, so I just had to fill it up once every several days. So I don't think that's going to be an option here on the dairy farm. We're going to have to actually learn to take care of these animals on our own. So with this all washed up, we're going to go park this over here and then we'll get set up on the planter. We drove by it here on the way up to the yard, but I guess I didn't really talk about it. While I'm not going to do a full equipment tour here since we've already done that in the live stream, you can see we've kind of chosen this area to be where we're going to park all of our, I guess I'll say, outdoor implements and such. A lot of stuff just doesn't end up going into a shed usually, especially tillage equipment and whatnot. It's quite large, and we just don't have the shed room. We might put that baler in the shed here at some point, but we just weren't sure if we were going to keep some of this equipment. Personally, I'm not a big fan of doing the pull-behind forage equipment either. It's pretty small and time-consuming. However, it felt kind of appropriate for this size of a farm. We might at some point either make a phone call and get a custom harvest crew to come out and do some of our silage work for us, or we may upgrade at some point. We'll see. One thing I don't know that I talked much about in the previous videos is that we've got quote-unquote realistic farm prices or crop prices on this map. And so if we look at the commodity prices here, you'll see that we have $3 corn, $8 soybeans, and so we're not going to make a ton of money on selling cash crops. This map has been set up more to focus on the day-to-day of running a dairy farm and not so much the grow and expand mentality that you see on a lot of maps, or really farm sim base game in general. And so it's just going to be a little bit different of a mindset. Now, I'm talking here and not remembering what we're trying to do. All of our seed is back here on the trailer. We moved it out of the way here on the live stream because I kept running into the truck. So we're going to try and back up here alongside our flatbed trailer and pick up some of the seed that we bought here. And we're going to go ahead and fill up this trailer with the bags of seed. Now we've got 3 crops that we're going to want to plant here, and we've got a few different things that we're going to do. So if we look at these fields, field 21, we're going to be putting soybeans into. Like I said, we're also going to try and double crop soybeans into this triticale field once we harvest it here. Maybe some of these other ones so that we can get a little bit of a cash crop to sell. With the double cropping, it gives us a little bit more options, but we're definitely going to be doing corn and silage corn in these other 2 fields. And so if we just take a quick look at the calendar here, I think all of these are going to end up being in the late spring area here for the corn, for the soybeans, etc. Now you'll notice that this planter is a split row planter, and so essentially what we're going to be doing for this is with our soybeans, we'll be planting on 15-inch rows, and then for our corn, we'll just be lifting up the rows that are in between and doing 30-inch rows for all of the corn. But this is going to be a nice size planter for us. I'm pretty sure this is set up as a no-till, so that when we go to double crop our soybeans on the triticale field, we're going to be able to plant straight into that. And I think my plan here is we're going to just get this thing parked out in the back here, away from the main farmyard so that we're not in the way. And we're going to get the other equipment put away in the shed here. So I'm just going to put this over here, nice and out of our way for the time being, since we've got it all set up and ready to go. And we're going to take this cedar and see if we can get it backed into the shed here. We've got a good amount of our equipment here in this larger shed. So we'll just drop this grain drill here in the corner, nice and out of the way. And then we're gonna pick up our sprayer here. We've got this nice 3-point mounted sprayer. And because we've got the front mounted Demco tanks here, we should be able to use the capacity on those tanks for the sprayer. We had a very similar setup to this on the farm that I worked on. About the same size, actually, as the sprayer, I think. It was a little bit different style in how it folded up, but I can't wait to get out there and use this. It looks like a fairly well done mod. It's got a decent amount of detail here. I think my only regret is I don't believe it has sprayer section control, which I do enjoy my sprayer section control. Now, one thing we did forget is to buy any herbicide. We've got quite a bit of liquid fertilizer here, but no herbicide. And so we will have to, at some point, pick up some herbicide. And unfortunately, I'm not able to unload my tanks. I got the option here to unload, but it doesn't seem to be actually unloading. Oh, there's not enough space to unload. Maybe I'm too close to that truck. Let's try and spin around here and see if we can find a space to unload. It doesn't seem to have a good unload node set up for us. I wonder if we drive out into a little bit bigger area. There we go. We're able to drop that right out of our sprayer here. And so now we've got the sprayer all set up here as well, since we won't need to do any more seeding at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and just park this sprayer right back into our barn here. Our shed here, and we'll just leave this guy sitting here. I want to make sure we're not too much in the way. We're kind of blocking that door, but that's okay. We're not going to be putting anything else in here. And then let's go grab this skid loader and see if we can load that up. We don't want to leave that pallet in the middle of the driveway. I think that would be a bit much. Looks like at some point our forks got knocked to the side here. That's all right. We've got them all hooked up now. And let's see how horrible I'm at loading pallets here. This is a mod that I haven't tried before. In fact, I forget where I even found it. I think this might be on the in-game mod hub, actually. And so this is a nice looking skid steer mod. And the one thing I seem to like about it is a lot of these mods that I've used have really horrible keyboard controls. They're like really sensitive and touchy. And I mean, this one's a little touchy, but compared to most skid steers that I've played with, this one works really well. Normally I'm completely unable to control them, and this one I'm able to actually kind of get moved around and do things with, so I've been really happy about that. And we're gonna go ahead and just drop this pallet right here on the shelf. And see, look at that. I had completely moved and loaded a pallet onto the storage shelf. First time, no problems. So I'm excited about that. We're going to be able to use this thing to move some stuff around. And in fact, I think we might actually get this tractor out of our way. And let's put the rest of these pallets here on the shelf for the liquid fertilizer at least. I think we're going to need some seed refill at some point for our planter, so we're going to leave the seed pallets loaded up there, but we don't have any real use for the liquid fertilizer at the moment. So I'm just going to pull this tractor forward a bit here, leave enough space if we want to pull that truck back in here after we're done. And then I'm going to move this back out of the way because we're going to back that trailer right up here so I don't have to drive so far with the Bobcat to keep loading or unloading some of these pallets. And for those that have asked, this truck is an early preview from Northwest Mods and Edits. Jonathan DuBois over at Northwest Mods and Edits was kind enough to send me an early access of this truck. He does have plans to release this publicly at some point, but I know he's got a lot left that he wants to do. And modding is kind of a hobby for him, not something that he's focused a lot on. And so he did caution me when he sent this over. It could take some time. He may even decide to wait until FS22 to release this truck. But he was nice enough to pass it on to me and asked me to just test it out and give him some feedback. And so I am always happy to help out a modder, especially someone that's been as kind and generous as he has. For those that don't know, Northwest Mods and Edits is made the Du Bois Farms map that I demoed in a couple of different videos. These full pallets are a little bit heavier. But so Northwest Mods and Edits, I did a live stream on his map, and I've also used it for testing out some of my mods, like the mods from Forward Ag I've done on his map. It's a great 1x map if you haven't checked that out before. Highly recommend it, and he's always just been a great guy to work with, so definitely love supporting the modding community here. So let's see if we can get these pallets all unloaded off of this trailer here. I don't want to put a fork through the container, and I also don't want to push the container on the other side off, and so we're gonna get this unloaded here. I've already said it, but I'm gonna say it again. I'm really enjoying this Bobcat mod. It's one of the first skid steers I've been able to drive in Farm Sim in a reasonable way. My camera unfortunately still doesn't cooperate though. And we've got just one more pallet here to unload off of this trailer. We're gonna crush right over this bush. And just like that, we've got it all loaded up. Let's see if I can spin in place. Nicely done, Bobcat. We're gonna lower this down. We don't like having big, heavy things like that up in the air for any amount of time, especially when driving here. And it looks like we've got just enough space for 4 of them. Now, our visuals are a little bit full here with this big pallet, but hopefully we can squeeze this in here. We might have to use it to straighten out this other container just a smidge, but it looks like everything's in here good. And so if we just hop out and look at our handiwork, maybe not the straightest stacking job, but you know what? It's working. We got all of them loaded up there, and we did it in just a few minutes without any major snafus. So I'm pretty happy with that. We're gonna push this bale fork in a little bit. I think we're gonna be using this Bobcat quite a bit. In fact, I think we're gonna leave the forks on it for the time being and park this thing right alongside the other implements just so that we're not fully blocking the garage door here. And we'll probably pull this truck and trailer in. We just don't want to risk having all these pallets of seed get rained on here. My only concern with this trailer is there doesn't seem to be any strapping ability, which is something that I'm used to, so we're driving extra careful here to make sure we don't drop our pallets off. But we're gonna leave that all loaded up and be able to load that into our planter here at some point. So with that, let's close these doors up, and we're gonna head on over and check on our animals next, I think. So this farm has a total of 6 different animal pens in it right now. You can see here we've got a heifer barn where we've got our 2 heifers here that are hopefully gonna start making some calves for us any time now. You can see our cleanliness is already dropping down here on this, which probably means that they're making some manure that we're gonna have to clean up. We did feed a little bit of hay there, which is a better feed than the grass that they're able to graze on. We didn't actually put any grass in there, but with the way seasons and this map is set up, you can see here these are our 2 cows. This is the heifer barn, and so they're down here grazing in this little tiny pasture area. And if I just come in here and take a quick look, I think we're gonna see this is the feeding area, and then we're gonna see just a little bit of manure over there. So we can open up this gate, and you can see we're creating manure on the ground here. And so we're going to have to come in here and clean this up at some point. Howdy doody cow, you just walked right through the wall. He sees the gate open, or she sees the gate open. She's trying to get out. So we're going to close that back up. And then over here in the pasture area, we've got our other 20 cows all wandering around out here. And the gate for this pasture, there's actually 2 of them. But at present, this is the one that allows you to transfer the cows in and out of the pasture. And so we've got this gate right here. We're going to make sure to close behind us. And this is quite a large pasture area. And so we've got all the rest of our, I guess they would be heifers, out here in the pasture. They're old enough that they're not calves anymore, but they haven't quite gotten to that stage where we're making milk yet. So hopefully soon we're going to have quite a few cows and be getting some milk here on the farm. And so much like the other area, this is all pasture. And so these cows are feeding on the grass here. I was testing mechanics earlier, and I put some hay out here. I had a bale of hay that I wanted to see how that worked. And so if we come out here into the field, you'll see that we do have this feed ring out here. I'm not sure what the official word is. We could call them feed rings, I think, when we were working out there. But you can dump a bale in here, and this is where you can feed them some hay if you want. I don't know that you would really need to do that, since all of the animals out here grazing are going to be heifers and not actually producing milk. Once we get to milk production, we're going to be putting them up in the big freestall barn that we have here on the top of the hill. And once they make their way into this barn, this is where we're going to start feeding all of the cows TMR, or, the more advanced food, so that they are much more productive. Once winter comes, we'll probably bring all of these heifers in from the pasture and put them into this heifer barn, where we're going to be able to provide some more feed. We'll be making quite a bit of hay here for getting us through the winter months. And so luckily for us, we're able to start getting our herd going here and have them out to pasture and just grazing as they start to mature. And hopefully by the time we need hay, we'll have more than enough off of all of the grasslands that we see here. In fact, if we just hop into the map here real quick, you'll see that we've got a ton of grass areas. And I'm going to turn alfalfa off here for a minute. And you can see on this map here, we're actually already at a point where I could cut all of this grass everywhere in between all of our fields. And this whole area up here north of the farm is all grass area that we own as well. If I turn on the purchase menu, you can see all of this is area that we own. And so we're going to be able to get out here and start doing some grass work here actually pretty quick. So I was not really expecting to be able to get out here and do that so early. And so we may actually work on cutting some grass here in the next day and seasons, since we do have some drying potential here, it looks like, coming up. And we've got another whole day that we need to wait before we even get into late spring here and have the ability to start planting and stuff. And so we're going to be doing a lot on this farm. I can't wait to get into the grass work. So with that, we're going to wrap up this first video episode of Autumn Oaks. Hopefully you're as excited about this series as I am. We've got a lot of new equipment to try out here and put through the paces on the farm, and a lot of cool, unique game mechanics that we haven't really dived into in any amount of detail. If you've enjoyed the episode, hit that like button for me. It helps the channel out a lot. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe for daily farm sim content. That's all for today. Kedrick out. But it's a decent amount of land so far. If you look down... Oh, crashed right into the tree. Come on. Truck, he does... Oh, crashed right into the wall.